The experiment was a violation of physics. Deep in the most secret laboratory beneath the Himalayan rock, the master of mankind, the Emperor, stood before a stable, golden tear in reality. It was not the screaming, chaotic red of a warp rift, but a controlled, precise incision into the imperial webway. It was his greatest work, the key to liberating humanity from the tyranny of the chaos gods, a highway of pure reason through the sea of madness. He reached out with his mind, a psychic sun of pure, ordered will, to stabilize the far side of the portal. In that same instant, a universe away, a nautiloid, a squid-shaped, biomechanical vessel of the Illithid Empire, made its own, cruder jump. It tore through the fabric of the plains, its destination a small, unassuming city called Baldur's Gate. For a single, infinitesimal moment, the two realities brushed against each other. The nautiloid's path intersected the Emperor's. A psychic backlash of unimaginable force erupted. The Emperor's golden gateway overloaded, the stable portal becoming a chaotic golden vortex. Sauron's magic, a thing of spirit and song, reacted violently with the Emperor's pure, psychic, scientific will. The Emperor was caught in the feedback loop. His physical form, his 12-foot, golden-armored body, was torn from Terra. He was pulled, not into the warp he knew, but into the chaotic alien astral plane. He was a golden meteor in a sea of silver mist, his very presence scorching the ethereal non-space. He felt the nautiloid, the source of the interference, and was drawn into its wake. He crashed through the ship's organic hull, a screaming golden comet of pure, righteous fury, just as the ship itself was torn from the astral plane by the talons of Githyanki dragons and violently pulled toward the physical world below. He awoke, not in a crash, but in a cage of pulsating, violet flesh. He was in the nautiloid's hold, the ship groaning, tearing itself apart around him. He felt something, a violation, a psychic, parasitic worm squirming, not just on his skin, but inside his skull. For the first time in millennia, the Emperor of mankind felt a cold, sharp, and utterly unfamiliar sensation. He felt fury. The nautiloid tore itself apart, its final, dying screech a mournful whale song over the strange, temperate coastline. The Emperor's containment pod, which had held him for mere minutes, was ripped from the hull. He was ejected, a golden meteor, crashing onto a sandy beach amidst the burning wreckage and the screaming purple-skinned Illithids. He rose from the sand, his auramite power armor unscratched, his mind a cold, analytical engine already processing the new reality. He felt the alien sun, he tasted the salt in the air, and he felt the infection in his head. Primary objective: purge the Xenos parasite. Secondary objective: identify and neutralize the entity responsible for this violation. Tertiary objective: assess local human population. Bring this lost world into imperial compliance. Movement. He saw them. Intellect devourers, skittering, brain-like creatures, scuttling towards him. Their rudimentary psionics, a wave of base, animalistic hunger. He classified them instantly: minor Xenos, psychic, parasitic. Abominations. He didn't move, he simply willed. A pulse of pure, golden psychic fire erupted from him. It was not a physical blast, it was an anathema. The intellect devourers didn't just burn. Their very minds, their alien souls, were incinerated, their bodies collapsing into inert, smoking piles of flesh. He heard coughing. Survivors. He strode towards them, his heavy golden boots crunching on the sand. He found them, a group of disoriented primitives. His gaze, a force of pure, analytical power, swept over them. A Githyanki female. Classification: Xenos. Warlike. Pionically resonant. Potential threat. An elven variant male. Classification: Xenos. Abhuman. Elf. Predatory. Manipulative. His senses detected Astarion's vampiric nature. A human female. Classification: human. Pure strain. Mind shielded by a Xenos artifact. Tainted by local, primitive superstition, he could feel the shadow of Shar around her. They were all, he noted with disgust, infected with the same parasite. Lae'zel, her warrior instincts overriding her confusion, raised her sword. "You, Goldskin, you are not Illithid. What are you? Speak before I cut your tongue." The Emperor regarded her. A Gith, a race of arrogant psychic Xenos he had encountered whispers of in the Dark Age texts. He had no time for her posturing. Shadowheart, clutching the dodecahedron, stepped back. "By the Lady of Sorrows," she whispered. The sheer, overwhelming power radiating from this golden giant was terrifying, but it was ordered, it was not chaotic. Astarion simply stared, his undead senses screaming. This was not a man. This was a sun. A walking, talking, breathing sun, and its light hurt. The Emperor ignored them all. He focused his full, cosmic-scale consciousness inward, on the single, most important problem, the parasite. The tadpole in his head was a violation of a scale the Emperor had not endured since the treachery of Horus. It was a thing, a physical manifestation of a Xenos race, squirming in the holy, sanctified confines of his own mind, the mind of the master of mankind. It was an insult that could only be answered with annihilation. He stood on the beach, his companions forgotten, and he focused his will. He brought his full psychic might, a power that held back the 4 chaos gods, a power that fueled a galaxy-spanning astronomicon, to bear on this single, microscopic, parasitic worm. He would burn it. He would incinerate it. Atom by atom, he unleashed his golden fire. The tadpole shrieked, a high, thin psychic wail of pure agony that should have caused its instant dissolution. And then, it held. The Emperor's impassive, golden features, for the first time in an age, registered a flicker of pure, unadulterated shock. The parasite was resisting. It was shielded. It was wrapped in an energy he did not recognize, a cold, dark, and utterly alien magic that was fundamentally different from the chaotic energies of the warp. It was a perfect, precise, and utterly impenetrable shield. Netherese magic. The tadpole, in its agony, fought back. It tried to initiate the transformation. It tried to connect him, to link his mind to the absolute. It failed. It was like a single drop of water trying to contaminate a supernova. The Emperor's will was a fortress of pure, unassailable order. He was not tainted by the connection. He was the one overwhelming the network. A psychic feedback loop erupted. The Emperor's golden will slammed upstream through the tadpole's connection, a torrent of pure, righteous, imperial fury. Far away, in the heart of a subterranean colony, an elder brain, the nexus of the absolute, screamed. It was a psychic shockwave that threw the nascent god brain from its throne of brine. It had just touched a mind that was not a mind. It was a galaxy. It was a god. It was an anathema. The connection was violently, instinctively severed by the brain. The Emperor stood on the beach, his golden eyes burning with a cold, terrifying fire. He was enraged. He had been violated by this Xenos parasite. His own divine power was, for the first time, insufficient to purge it. And the entity responsible, this absolute, had dared to touch his mind, and then fled. This was no longer a mission of survival or compliance. This was a personal vendetta. He would not rest. He would not stop. He would hunt this absolute, this elder brain, to the ends of this primitive mud ball world, and he would not just destroy it. He would unmake it, piece by agonizing, psychic piece. His first priority, now that the immediate threat was understood, was information and a base of operations. The primitive survivors of the crash were a potential source. He turned his burning, golden gaze upon them. "You," his voice boomed, not in Gothic, but in perfect, flawless, mind-scanned common tongue. "You are infected. You serve this absolute parasite. Where is its source?" Lae'zel, Astarion, and Shadowheart stared, stunned. This golden thing spoke, and it knew about the parasite? Before they could answer, the Emperor's psychic senses, vastly superior to their own, detected a concentration of life. Human. Xenos. And feral psychers, he murmured. He turned and began to march inland. You will follow. You will provide tactical data. Your servitude begins now. They had no choice but to follow the 2-foot-tall, golden god warlord. They arrived, hours later, at the gates of the Druid Grove. The Emperor took in the scene with a single, contemptuous glance. He saw the tieflings, humans with horns, tails, and patches of reptilian skin. Classification: mutants, abominations, to be purged. He saw the druids in their grove, their minds filled with a primitive, nature-worshipping, superstitious creed. Classification: feral psychers, unsanctioned, dangerous, to be controlled or purged. He saw the goblins outside, their minds a chaotic, hateful static. Classification: green skin adjacent, mutant filth, to be exterminated. He strode through the gate, his golden presence causing the guards, the druids, and the tiefling refugees to fall to their knees, their minds overwhelmed by his sheer, passive, psychic aura of absolute authority. He entered the central inner sanctum and saw the source of the immediate conflict, the druid Kaga, her mind poisoned by the shadow druids. A heretical cult in his eyes was threatening the tiefling child, Arabella. This, to the Emperor, was the pinnacle of this world's sickness. A feral psyker threatening a mutant child, while a greater, external threat, the goblins, was at the gates. This entire grove was a festering wound of chaos and inefficiency. It needed order. Cease. His voice boomed. The single word, a psychic hammer that knocked Kaga and the other druids to the floor. He strode to the center of the chamber. You have failed, he announced to the cowering inhabitants. You have failed to maintain order. You have failed to purge the mutant. You have allowed your minds to be tainted by heresy. You have allowed the external threat to fester at your gates. He raised his golden gauntlet, and it began to glow with a fire that seemed to burn the very air. As the master of mankind, I find this grove guilty. Its sentence is purification. He was about to incinerate the entire grove, tiefling and druid alike, and start his crusade of order from a clean, ash-covered slate. Wait, a new voice, desperate and firm, cut through the terrified silence. A group of figures stood at the entrance to the inner sanctum, blocking the Emperor's path. It was the player's party Tav. For this story, a human paladin of vengeance, Will, and Gale. They had just arrived, their own minds reeling from the tadpole, and had been drawn by the commotion. The Emperor turned his blazing, golden gaze upon them. He saw Tav, human, pure strain, a warrior psyker, paladin, his mind burning with a focused, almost fanatical will. Classification: potential asset. He saw Will, human, tainted. He could feel the warp pact that bound his soul to a lesser demonic entity, Mizora. Classification: heretic, potential risk. He saw Gale, human, tainted. His body was a walking bomb. The Emperor's senses analyzed the Netherese orb in his chest. Classification: unstable psyker bomb, extreme heretic, extreme threat. More primitives, the Emperor stated, his voice a low growl of annoyance. You are too late. The judgment has been passed. No, Tav shouted, stepping forward, his hand on his sword hilt. These are people. They are refugees. They are scared. Fear is a symptom of disorder, the Emperor replied. The only cure is absolute order, or absolute destruction. They are mutants and heretics. They must be purged. The real enemy is outside. Gale interjected, his mind racing. He had to make this elemental of a man understand. The goblins, they serve a new, terrifying power. The absolute. It's the one that put these things in our heads. That is the true enemy. The Emperor paused. His golden gaze snapped to Gale. The absolute? He strode to Gale, his 12-foot form towering over the wizard. He placed a golden gauntlet on Gale's head. Gale cried out as the Emperor's mind seized his, not with malice, but with the cold, dispassionate force of a data thief. In a nanosecond, he had it all. He saw Gale's memories, the tadpole, the visions, the voice of the Absolute, the connection to the other true souls, the goblin camp, the leaders, the illithid, absolute plot. He released Gale, who collapsed, panting. The Emperor's cold, logical mind recalculated. The goblins. They were not just random mutants. They were the soldiers of the primary threat. The druids and tieflings. They were an irrelevant, secondary heresy. To purge the grove now would be inefficient. It would waste time and resources. The true path to victory, the path to purging the parasite from his own holy mind, was to strike at the head of this Absolute. He turned to Tav. "You are correct," his voice boomed. "The illithid Absolute plot is the primary threat. The Xenos, mutant heresy within this grove, is a secondary concern to be dealt with. After the primary threat is neutralized." He was forming an alliance. In his mind, he was simply conscripting these primitives into his new Imperial Guard. "We will purge the goblin leaders," the Emperor declared. "We will find the source of this Absolute, and we will unmake it. You will lead me to them. You will serve, and you will obey." The party stared, stunned. This golden god warlord had just, in his own, terrifyingly logical way, agreed to help them. The most powerful and most dangerous ally in the history of Faerun had just joined their camp. The Emperor's arrival at the camp was a moment of profound, world-shifting shock for the other companions. He did not ask for a tent. He simply chose a central, commanding position by the fire, his golden form a silent, radiating beacon of pure, intimidating power. The other companions gave him a wide, terrified berth. Asterion, his vampiric senses screaming in the presence of this son, hid in the deepest shadows, refusing to even approach. Lae'zel, recognizing a will stronger than any she had ever known, watched him with a new, hateful, and almost fearful respect. Shadowheart kept her hand on the prism, her mind a fortress of Sharon wards, terrified he would try to take it. The Emperor ignored them all. His gaze fell on Gale, who was nervously attempting to siphon magic from a common leather boot. "Your affliction is an insult to psychic discipline," the Emperor stated. He strode over to Gale. The wizard flinched. It's a condition. A need," Gale stammered. "I must consume magic, or the orb in my chest will. It is a crude, unstable warp bomb," the Emperor interrupted, his voice filled with contempt for the primitive Netherese magic. He placed 2 golden fingers on Gale's chest, directly over the orb. Gale froze, his eyes wide, expecting to be detonated. The Emperor closed his eyes. He channeled an infinitesimal fraction of his psychic will. He did not try to cure the orb. He simply stabilized it. He created a perfect, golden, psychic stasis field around the orb, locking its magical energies in place, severing its need to consume. Gale gasped. The gnawing, terrible hunger that had defined his life for the past year was gone. It was just silent. "I have contained your affliction," the Emperor said. "Do not let it become a liability again. You are a tool. Be a useful one." He turned away, leaving the wizard speechless. His entire reality, and the quest given to him by Mystra, rendered moot in a single, casual, psychic gesture. The Emperor's gaze now fell on Shadowheart. "The artifact?" he boomed, holding out his massive golden hand. "You have been hoarding it. It is a key tactical asset in this war. Surrender it to your new commander." Shadowheart, her hand instinctively clutching the prism, shook her head. "No, I cannot. It is my mission, my goddess." "Your goddess is an irrelevant, localized warp entity," the Emperor stated. He did not have time for this. He simply willed it. Shadowheart cried out as the prism was telekinetically ripped from her pouch. It flew through the air and slammed into the Emperor's open gauntlet. He closed his fist around it. He felt the power within. The wards, the psychic presence, a Githyanki psyker, of significant power, he mused. He analyzed the artifact's construction. A Karsite? No, a Netherese resonance. This object, it shields us from the primary threat. It is the key. He had secured the bomb. He had secured the shield. His party of primitives was now optimally configured for his crusade. That night, as the rest of the camp slept fitfully in the shadow of their new, terrifying god general, the emperor sat in meditation, his full, colossal consciousness focused on the strange, multifaceted artifact in his hand, the astral prism. He could feel the two minds within. One, a cowering, desperate, manipulative illithid mind. The other, a proud, disciplined, and powerful Githyanki mind. And he felt the crude, magical wards that Shadowheart's goddess had placed upon it, locking it. Pathetic, he whispered. He did not seek a key. He did not seek a password. He was the key. He was the master. He wrapped his golden, psychic will around the prism and squeezed. The Sharan wards, dark, ancient, and subtle, shattered like glass. The artifact flared, and the Emperor's consciousness was drawn inside. He found himself in a shifting, silver, astral void. Before him floated the Dream Guardian, the idealized, beautiful figure that the illithid parasite used to manipulate its victims. At last, the Dream Guardian sighed, its voice a perfect, honeyed tone of relief. You have come. I am the one who has been protecting you. I am the one holding back the Absolute. I am your savior. I am the Emperor. The Emperor of mankind stood, his 12-foot, golden-armored form a burning golden sun in the astral void. He looked at the purple, idealized, tentacled creature that had just dared to claim his title. He did not speak. He did not laugh. He attacked. It was not a physical blow. It was a psychic annihilation, a wave of pure, golden, imperial fury, the wrath of a god, slammed into the illithid's consciousness. The Dream Guardian screamed, its beautiful illusion dissolving instantly, revealing the true, grotesque, purple-skinned, tentacled form of the Mind Flare. It recoiled, its mind blades flaring, its psychic defenses rising. What? No. You are supposed to be my puppet. You are supposed to trust me. You dare. The Emperor's voice was not a sound, but a psychic earthquake that shattered the very fabric of the dreamscape. You dare use my title, Xenos? You dare imply that I, the master of mankind, could be your puppet? He seized the illithid Emperor's mind. The Mind Flayer, a creature that had dominated thousands of wills, a being of vast, psionic power, suddenly knew what a true god felt like. It was like a single, terrified man trying to hold back a collapsing star. It did not last a second. The Emperor did not just defeat the illithid. He broke it. He performed a psychic lobotomy, shattering its personality, its arrogance, its very self. He tore its mind apart, leaving only a useful, programmable, and utterly terrified tool. You are not the Emperor. The Emperor's voice, now cold and quiet, whispered into the illithid's broken consciousness. You are it. You will continue to shield us. You will obey. You will serve. And you will never use my title again. The illithid, now a whimpering, psychic slave, bowed. The Emperor turned his attention. And now, the battery. He strode to the back of the astral prison, where the true prisoner was held. Orpheus, prince of the Githyanki, the proud, powerful, chained figure looked up, his violet eyes burning with a hateful fire. The Emperor regarded him. A powerful Xenos psyker, a useful, self-recharging power source for the artifact. He did not free him. He did not speak to him. He simply reinforced his chains with his own golden psychic energy, ensuring the battery would remain stable, functional, and completely contained. His control of the prism was now absolute. He was now, and forever, completely immune to the Absolute's psychic commands. His greatest weakness, the tadpole in his own head, had just become his greatest weapon. With the astral prism now fully under his control and his mind an unbreachable fortress, the Emperor turned his attention to the primary threat, the Goblin camp. His allies, Tav, Gale, Will, and the others, spoke of a complex plan: infiltration, poisoning the beer, using the spiders, rescuing the druid Halsin. The emperor dismissed it all as inefficient, sentimental, and a waste of tactical resources. He would not sneak. He would not parley. He would purge. He marched. The party had no choice but to follow in his wake. He strode through the blighted lands, his golden aura a terrifying beacon, and walked directly up to the main gate of the goblin camp. "Halt!" the goblin guards yelled from the parapet. "Who are you, gold shiny boy?" "I am the Emperor of Mankind." His voice boomed, a wave of pure psychic authority. "And your existence as a mutant subspecies is an affront to my sight. You have 10 seconds to kneel, or you will be exterminated." The goblins, confused and arrogant, laughed. One of them, a buyog, a crude, minor psyker, in the Emperor's estimation, hurled a bolt of magic at him. The bolt, a crackling green thing, dissipated harmlessly against the Emperor's passive psychic shield. "So be it," he said. He raised his hand. He did not launch a firestorm. He simply squeezed. The entire goblin patrol on the wall, a dozen of the creatures, suddenly froze. They clutched their heads, their crude black blood pouring from their eyes, ears, and noses. Their brains, such as they were being simultaneously crushed by a wave of pure, telekinetic force. They collapsed like puppets, with their strings cut. He strode to the great, wooden gate of the camp. He didn't look for a lever, he simply pushed it. The massive, iron-banded timbers tore from their hinges, collapsing inwards with a sound like thunder. He walked into the central courtyard. 100 goblins, bugbears, and human cultists stopped their feasting and revelry, their minds stunned by the sudden, apocalyptic arrival of the golden god warrior. "Kneel!" A new, commanding voice roared from the top of the nearby fastness. Dror Ragzlin, the hobgoblin true soul, stood there, his mind filled with the arrogant power of the Absolute. He pointed a finger at the Emperor. "In the name of the Absolute, I command you, kneel before me." A wave of pure, psionic, mind-dominating power washed over the courtyard. The entire party, Tav, Gale, Will, collapsed to their knees, their tadpoles writhing in their skulls, their wills not their own. But the psychic command hit the Emperor and shattered. It was like a child throwing a rock at a star. The Emperor stood, unmoved, his golden gaze fixed on the hobgoblin who had dared to give him an order. He was insulted. "You dare," the Emperor whispered, his voice a promise of unimaginable pain. He reached out with his mind. He felt the psychic leash, connecting Dror Ragzlin to his Absolute. The Emperor followed that leash. His consciousness, a golden spear of pure, righteous, imperial fury, shot back along the psychic pathway, past the goblin camp, past the shadow-cursed lands, deep, deep underground, into a vast, dark cavern. He found it. The source, a great, pulsating, monstrous brain, floating in a pool of brine, its will a nexus of 1,000 dominated minds. The elder brain, the Emperor's mind struck. It was not an attack. It was a rebuke. A single, psychic slap across the face of a nascent, arrogant god. In its subterranean lair, the elder brain screamed. A soundless, psychic cataclysm that shook the very foundations of its colony. It had just touched a mind that was not a mind. It was a galaxy. It was a sun. It was an anathema. The feedback was instantaneous. The elder brain, in a moment of pure, unadulterated terror, severed all connections. In the goblin camp, every single true soul Dror Ragzlin, Minthara, priestess Gut screamed as one. The psychic power they had wielded, the voice in their heads, was not just gone. It had fled, leaving behind a residue of pure, unimaginable fear. They collapsed, their bodies convulsing, their minds broken, their tadpoles spasming in agony. The entire goblin camp, their leadership instantly and simultaneously lobotomized, fell into total chaos. The Emperor looked at the cowering, screaming, leaderless mob. "Purge them all," he commanded his allies. His first great victory in this world was complete. The path to Moonrise Towers, the source of the Absolute's army, lay through a land of profound, unnatural darkness. The party arrived at the edge of the shadow-cursed lands, a place where the very air was a tangible, necrotic shroud, and the light of the sun was a forgotten memory. "We cannot go further," Shadowheart warned, her voice tight with a familiar religious dread. "The curse, it consumes all life, all light. We need a blessing, a moon lantern, or it will tear our very souls apart." Gale and Will nodded in grim agreement, their faces pale as they looked into the oppressive, clinging darkness. The Emperor of Mankind regarded the curse with a cold, analytical eye. He extended his psychic senses. He felt it, a wave of pure, negative, warp-based energy, a localized phenomenon of necromantic power. It was the same energy that animated the undead, a tool of the Daemon Lord he had classified as Merkul. It was an environmental hazard, designed to inspire fear and weaken the will. It was, to him, pathetic. "You fear the dark?" the Emperor asked, his voice resonant with contempt. He looked at his cowering, primitive allies, who were fumbling with broken lanterns and half-remembered prayers. "Your superstition is your weakness. You seek a candle to hold back the night." He strode past them, to the very edge of the shadow line. "I," his voice boomed, "am the light." He did not cast a spell. He did not raise a weapon. He simply willed it. He flared his own psychic aura. A sun was born in the shadow-cursed lands. A dome of pure, radiant, golden light erupted from the Emperor's form. It was not a simple magical daylight spell. It was a 100-foot radius, perfect, shimmering sphere of his own, divine, anathema energy. It was the very antithesis of the curse. The shadows, the ancient, cloying, soul-eating darkness, did not just recede. They screamed. They burned. Where the Emperor's golden light touched the curse, the shadows vaporized, hissing like water on a star, leaving behind only clean, purified stone and earth. The party stared, their mouths agape. The oppressive, soul-crushing weight of the curse was gone, replaced by a warm, golden, and utterly terrifying aura of pure, absolute order. "Come," the Emperor commanded, already marching forward. "Stay within my light, and you will be protected. Stray, and you will be purged." He was a walking one-man cure for the entire land. He was a mobile sun, a self-contained safe zone, and he strode through the heart of the shadow-cursed lands as if he were taking a walk in a garden. The creatures of the shadow, the wraiths, the cursed shadows, the very land itself, recoiled from him. A shadow wraith, a being of pure, necrotic energy, lunged from a ruined house. The moment it touched the golden, shimmering dome of the Emperor's aura, it incinerated, its psychic scream of agony cut short as its essence was unmade. Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli, who had been traveling with the party to offer their own aid, were utterly speechless. They had fought their way through this land, their hearts filled with dread. This was a god. He is magnificent, Aragorn murmured, his hand on Andúril, his mind reeling. "He is terrifying," Gandalf replied, his own white light utterly dwarfed by the golden, tyrannical sun of the Emperor. "He is not healing this land, Aragorn. He is conquering it." The Emperor marched on, his golden light a beacon of absolute, unyielding, and terrifying salvation. The last vestiges of the shadow curse burned away before him, and the path to Moonrise Towers was now clear. The assault on Moonrise Towers was not a siege, it was an execution. The Emperor of Mankind, his golden aura a blinding sun, strode across the causeway. The legions of goblins and corrupted cultists, who had been arrayed to defend the fortress, broke and fled before he even reached the gate. His very presence was a weapon that shattered their morale. He blasted the gates from their hinges with a single telekinetic shove and entered the main hall, his party of companions following in his awesome, terrifying wake. At the far end, on a throne of black stone, sat General Catherick Thorm. He was an imposing figure in his dark, spiked armor, his face a mask of cold, arrogant certainty. He did not flinch. He did not flee. He simply watched, his eyes burning with the cold light of his necromantic master. "So," Catheric's voice, deep and resonant, echoed in the hall. The Absolute's new golden puppet. Or are you just another fool who thinks he can defy a god? I have been given the gift of immortality. I serve the Lord of Bones. You cannot kill me. You cannot stop me. The Emperor regarded the general. He analyzed him in an instant. Classification: human, elite, taint, extreme, power source, direct pact with Daemon Lord, Myrkul. Status: immortal, suspected necromantic anchor. Threat: moderate. You are a heretic, the Emperor's voice boomed. A slave to a minor warp entity. Your immortality is a flaw in your design, not a strength. Catheric laughed. Fool, you will see. He drew his great dark axe and leaped from his throne to attack. The Emperor did not even raise his sword. He simply raised his hand. Kneel, he commanded, not with a plea, but with a psychic hammer blow. Catheric's knees buckled. He, who had commanded armies, who was the chosen of a god, found his body failing him. He crashed to his knees, his axe clattering on the stone. The Emperor's will was an iron chain, crushing his resistance. You speak of gods, the Emperor said, striding slowly towards the kneeling, struggling general. You know nothing of true power. He reached Catheric. He placed his golden gauntlet on the general's helmeted head. I will have the secrets of your master, he said, and he tore the knowledge from Catheric's mind. He saw the pact. He saw the apostle. He saw the Illithid colony below. He saw the night song, the true source of the general's immortality. An inefficient anchor, the Emperor growled, his mind now holding all the information he needed. He had the schematics of the entire fortress, the location of the true threat. Catheric Thorm was no longer a general. He was a redundant, intermediate step. Your service is at an end, the Emperor declared. He unleashed a torrent of golden, psychic fire. Catheric Thorm screamed, a high, thin, terrible sound, as his body, his armor, and his very soul were incinerated in a single, blazing instant. He was reduced to a pile of black, smoking ash on the throne room floor. The companions stared in stunned silence. They had just witnessed a man who was, by all accounts, immortal, be executed in the blink of an eye. A moment later, the magic of Myrkul took hold. The ash on the floor began to swirl, to pull together, to reform. Catheric's body, his armor, began to knit itself back together, his laughter echoing. You see, I cannot be. The Emperor, his patience utterly exhausted, gestured again. A second, more powerful, blast of psychic fire struck the half-formed Catheric. This time, the Emperor did not just burn the flesh. He purged the soul. He attacked the link between Myrkul and his champion, searing it, cauterizing it. Catheric's reforming body exploded, and this time, it did not return. A final, agonized, psychic shriek echoed through the hall, and then there was only silence. The Emperor turned his gaze to the floor. He could feel it, the true source of the problem, the psychic tether, the night song, deep below. He was merely the puppet, the Emperor said. Now, we go to kill the puppeteer. The Emperor led his party through the flesh and metal corridors of the Illithid colony beneath Moonrise Towers. The Mind Flayers, who were the masters of this hive, felt his approach. They felt the golden, anathema mind that had shattered their elder brain's will. They did not fight. They fled. They abandoned their posts, their tadpole pools, their grotesque experiments, and cowered in the shadows, their psychic whispers a chorus of pure, unadulterated terror. The Emperor ignored them. They were a Xenos infestation, yes, but they were a secondary one. His target was the heart of the colony, the source of the necromantic power. He blasted his way through the final, fleshy membrane and entered a vast, dark cavern. In the center, on a platform of black, glistening stone, stood the Apostle of Myrkul. It was a colossal, skeletal abomination, its great, bony ribcage opened, its skull a mask of divine, cold malice. It was not a creature. It was a fragment, a physical avatar of the Daemon Lord Myrkul himself. So, the Apostle's voice, 1,000 dying breaths at once, boomed in their minds. The Golden Fool, You have slain my chosen. You have dared to stand against the Lord of Bones. Your arrogance will be your end. Your soul will be my masterpiece." The apostle raised its great skeletal hand, and a scythe of pure, black, necrotic energy formed within it. The emperor of mankind regarded the god fragment with a cold, analytical gaze. Classification: Major warp entity. Avatar class. Power source: necromantic, soul-based. Threat: extreme. "You are an echo of a false god," the emperor declared. "You are a parasite that feeds on the fear of mortals. Your age is over. The age of man has begun." The duel was joined. It was not a physical battle. It was a theological one. The Apostle of Merkul unleashed its power. A wave of absolute, soul-chilling cold, the very essence of death, washed over the chamber. It was a power that drained life, that withered flesh, that stopped hearts. The Emperor's companions, Tav, Gale, Will, collapsed, their bodies racked with agony, their souls being physically ripped from their flesh. But the wave of death hit the Emperor and stopped. He stood, a radiant golden sun in a sea of absolute necrotic darkness. His anathema aura flared, a shield of pure, psychic life and order against Merkul's power of death and entropy. "Your death is an inefficient, chaotic state," the Emperor's voice boomed, a sound of pure, creative, living will. "I am the master of life, and I find you wanting." He attacked. He did not use his sword. He did not use his fists. He opened his mind, his full, unbound, psychic might, and he judged the god fragment. A pillar of pure, golden anathema fire, the very essence of the Emperor's soul, lanced from the heavens and struck the Apostle of Myarkul. Merkul screamed. It was a sound that shattered the stone of the cavern, a sound that was felt in the deepest, darkest planes of existence. It was a sound of a god dying. The Emperor's power was not just burning the Apostle's physical form. It was erasing its divine essence. It was a fire that burned not just flesh, but concepts. It was burning the very idea of Merkul from this reality. The skeletal, avatar form of the god of death clawed at the golden beam, its form cracking, dissolving, unmaking. "No," it shrieked, its voice now thin and terrified. "It cannot be. I am eternal. I am—" The golden light flared, and the Apostle of Merkul was gone, not banished, not defeated, erased. In the far, distant, dark plains of the cosmos, the true god Merkul, Lord of Bones, felt a part of his own divine being, his very soul, be permanently destroyed. And his divine brothers, Bane and Baal, felt it too. They felt the sudden, agonizing, empty space where their brother's power had been. And for the first time in their eternal, arrogant, godlike existence, they felt a new, cold, and utterly mortal emotion. They felt fear. The Emperor of mankind stood in the silent, empty cavern, the last, fading echo of Merkul's death scream still resonating in his mind. He had purged the god fragment. The necromantic anchor was destroyed. The shadow-cursed lands, he could feel, were already beginning to heal. The curse lifting, the golden light of his own presence having won. He turned to his companions, who were now shakily getting to their feet. Their souls returned to their bodies. "The secondary threat is neutralized," the Emperor stated, as if he had just completed a minor administrative task. "We proceed to the primary, this Baldur's Gate." The journey to the great city was swift. The Emperor's psychic will pushed them, their pace unnaturally fast, their need for rest all but eliminated by the sheer motivating power of his presence. They arrived at the gates of Baldur's Gate. The city was a sprawling, magnificent metropolis, and it was a police state. Everywhere, giant, mechanical steel watchers patrolled the streets, their red optical sensors scanning the populace, their presence a boot of cold, hard iron on the neck of the city. The Emperor's gaze was one of pure, unadulterated contempt. "Primitive automata," he scoffed, his voice a low, disgusted growl. "An insult to the sacred science of the Legio Cybernetica. This is the order your other godling imposes? It is inefficient. It is weak." He had learned, from Ketheric's mind of the alliance of the dead three. He knew of Gortash, the chosen of Bane, the god of tyranny. This was his work. He ignored the city gates. He ignored the guards. He simply placed his hand on the 100-foot-tall city wall. He focused his will, and he tore a hole in it, the ancient stone crumbling to dust, creating a new, perfect, man-sized archway. He strode into the city, his companions scrambling to keep up. By the gods, Will breathed. He didn't even— Stop talking, heretic, the Emperor commanded, his mind already focused on his next target. Your gods are dying. It is time to kill the machines. He marched, not to Gortash's fortress, but to the source, the Steel Watch Foundry. His golden aura was a beacon, drawing the immediate, hostile attention of the Watchers. They converged on him, their Hellfire missiles launching, their great steel fists raised. "Protect your god, Emperor!" Tav roared, his own newfound fanaticism rising. He and the party engaged the Watchers, a desperate, swirling battle. The Emperor ignored the fight. He strode to the foundry, his psychic shield deflecting missiles and grenades as if they were raindrops. He blasted the doors from their hinges and entered the heart of the factory. He found the control center, the Neurositter, a great, pulsating, brain-like device where enslaved, lobotomized humans were used to program the Steel Watch. Blasphemy, the Emperor whispered. This was a desecration of the human form, a mockery of the sacred union of flesh and machine. He placed his golden gauntlets on the Neurositter. He did not destroy it. He merged with it. His consciousness, a galaxy-spanning psychic ocean, flooded the crude, primitive cogitator network. The enslaved brains screamed as their minds were touched by his divine, logical perfection. He didn't just reprogram the Steel Watch. He gave them faith. He uploaded a new, single, absolute, and wholly prime directive into their core logic. Prime directive. The tyrant Gortash is the Hereticus Maximus. His order is a flaw in the pattern. He is a traitor to the true cause of absolute dominion. Purge the heretic. Exterminate the master. For the true God Emperor. Across the entire city of Baldur's Gate, every single Steel Watcher stopped. Their red, optical sensors flickered. And then, they turned a bright, righteous, golden. The Watcher that was about to kill Tav suddenly turned, shielding him, and blasted the other Watcher beside it. The entire, vast, mechanical legion of the Steel Watch had just, in an instant, been converted. They now served a new, true God. A new war began in the streets of Baldur's Gate, a civil war of the machines. The newly faithful Watchers, in their golden-eyed fanaticism, began to march, as one, towards the fortress of their former master. Gortash's own army was about to tear him apart. Lord Gortash, the newly proclaimed Archduke of Baldur's Gate, stood on the ramparts of his fortress, Worm's Rock, watching his city tear itself apart. His coronation, his grand, meticulously planned ascension to power, was a smoking, chaotic ruin. His invincible Steel Watch, the very symbol of his new, ironclad order, was fighting itself. A full half of his legion, their eyes now a burning heretical gold, was actively assaulting his fortress, their movements guided by a new, terrifyingly efficient tactical doctrine. And in his mind, he could feel it. The cold, logical, and utterly terrified silence where the will of Bane, his divine master, should be. The gods were afraid. It was into this chaos that the Emperor of Mankind arrived. He did not fight his way across the causeway. He simply appeared on the rooftop, a shimmer of golden psychic light, his companions materializing around him. He had teleported them, a casual display of power that spat in the face of all mortal limitation. Gortash, the Emperor's voice boomed, calm and cold, as he strode across the roof, his golden-eyed Steel Watchers, who were guarding the fortress, kneeling as he passed. Gortash staggered back, his own, intricate, Banite-enchanted armor seeming a pale imitation of the golden living god before him. "You," he snarled, trying to regain his composure. "You are the source of this, the anomaly. What are you?" "I am the master of mankind," the Emperor stated. "And you are a heretic, a deluded child, playing with the power of a false god. Gortash, ever the politician, the master of the logical bargain, tried to find a new path. He raised his hands. Wait. We do not need to be enemies. We are both men of order. We both see the chaos of the world and seek to control it. I serve Bane, the god of tyranny. You are a god of order. We are two sides of the same coin. We can rule together. We can negotiate. He offered an alliance, a logical, pragmatic union of two supreme, orderly wills. The Emperor regarded him with a look of pure, unadulterated disgust. You, the Emperor said, his voice a low, dangerous whisper, are a heretic. You have taken the pure, logical ideal of imperial order, and you have tainted it. You have bound it to the whims of a chaotic, selfish, warp entity. You have enslaved humanity not for its own salvation, but for your own petty, personal ambition. You are not a man of order. You are a man of ego. And you are an abomination. He did not have time for a negotiation. He had no time for a duel. He had one, final, simple task. He reached out his hand, and he scoured Gortash's mind. In a single, agonizing, screaming nanosecond, the Emperor tore every last secret from Gortash's soul. He saw the entire plan, the crown of Karsus, the Illithid colony, the Netherbrain, the pact with Orin and Catheric, the plan to dominate the world. He had all the data he needed. Gortash, the man, was now utterly, completely redundant. Your usefulness is at an end, the Emperor declared. He unleashed his power. A single, focused, and utterly devastating bolt of golden psychic fire. Gortash screamed. His enchanted, Banite armor, which could have withstood a dragon's breath, melted like wax. His body, his flesh, his very bones were incinerated in a flash of holy, righteous light. Bane, in his divine plane, roared in agony as his second divine avatar, his chosen vessel, was not just killed, but permanently erased, his soul fragment annihilated by the anathema. The Emperor stood where Gortash had been, his hand still raised. The logical god of tyranny was dead. 2 of the dead. 3 were now gone. With Gortash reduced to a smear of molten armor and sanctified ash, the Emperor's path was now horrifyingly clear. He had scoured the location of the final godling from Gortash's mind, the Temple of Baal. He did not wait, he did not rest, he teleported again. He, and his now utterly terrified and exhausted party, vanished from the rooftop of Worm's Rock in a flash of golden light. They reappeared in the dark, fated, and gore-drenched tunnels beneath the city. They were in the sewers, before the ancient, blood-stained door to the Temple of Baal. The stench of millennia of ritual murder, a psychic and physical miasma, washed over them. Gale and Will retched. Tav gripped his holy symbol, his hand trembling. The Emperor was unmoved. A primitive, chaotic, cornate adjacent cult, he growled in disgust. Pathetic. He strode to the door. It was sealed with blood magic. He placed his gauntlet on it. The magic screamed as his holy, ordered will unmade it. The door dissolved into a shower of bloody rust. He marched into the Temple of B, murder asterisk. He did not care about the victims. He cared about the heresy. Where is she? Tav demanded, his voice echoing, his own quest to save the victim now driving him. She will make herself known, the Emperor said. These creatures are arrogant. It is their fatal flaw. They were suddenly ambushed. Orin the Red, in her madness, tried to play her final, theatrical game. She was disguised as a wounded, weeping guard, lying in their path. Help me, she moaned. The heretics. They took. The Emperor did not even slow down. His psychic senses were mapping her on a molecular level. He could see the true form, the Slayer form, lurking beneath the pathetic, magical illusion, like a child hiding under a blanket. Cease this childish farce, his voice boomed. He raised a hand, and Orin, her illusion shattering, was ripped from her hiding place and held aloft, strangling, in a powerful telekinetic grip. She twisted and writhed, her body exploding into the grotesque, monstrous form of the Slayer of Baal. A great, multi-limbed, clawed abomination of pure, murderous intent. She was a god avatar, a being of immense physical power, and she was held, helpless, in the Emperor's invisible, crushing grip. "You," she gurgled, her slayer form strength useless. "You will be a glorious sacrifice to Paul. You are a failed, chaotic experiment," the Emperor replied, his voice a low, cold whisper. He was not interested in a fight. He was here to end this. He did not kill her. That was too simple. He did not purge her. That would be too merciful. He cleansed her. He focused his will, not on Orin's body, but on the divine essence that inhabited it. He seized the fragment of Baal, the god of murder, that gave her power, and he squeezed. Orin screamed. Not a roar of a monster, but the high, thin, terrified scream of a mortal woman. Her slayer form convulsed, melted, and flowed off of her, like a suit of red, fleshy armor dissolving into nothing. The Emperor had not just killed the Avatar. He had purged the god from the host. He released his grip. Orin, no longer the chosen of Baal, no longer the slayer, but just a pale, naked, and utterly broken woman, collapsed to the floor. She was not dead. She was just empty. A mindless, drooling, catatonic husk, her mind shattered, her soul scoured clean of her god's taint. Baal, the lord of murder, in his own distant, bloody plane, howled in agony and fear. His connection to the mortal world, his chosen, his very purpose, had been severed, castrated, by an unknown, golden, and utterly terrifying will. The Dead Three were broken. The moment the last of the Dead Three's influence was purged from the world, a new, far more ancient and terrible presence made itself known. With the deaths of its chosen controllers, the crown of Karsus, which sat atop the Elder Brain deep beneath the city, was now unbound. And the Elder Brain, its will no longer yoked to the Dead Three, its mind no longer shattered by the Emperor's psychic rebuke, was free. It rose. The entire city of Baldur's Gate shook, a low, seismic rumble that sent citizens screaming into the streets. The ground near the port district tore open, and from the depths, the Nether Brain ascended. It was a creature of impossible scale, a glistening, pulsating, mountainous brain, its tentacles the size of towers. It was crowned with the ancient, magical, Netherese artifact, which glowed with a purple, mind-breaking power. It was a true, physical god, born of illithid psionics and ancient, ultimate magic, and it was terrified. It had felt the Emperor. It knew what he had done to its allies. It knew it was the last one left. It made its final, desperate move. It unleashed its full, unbound, psychic might, amplified by the crown of Karsus. It did not target the Emperor. It targeted the city. It sent out a single, absolute, psychic command to every single tadpoled citizen in Baldur's Gate. Transform, consume, destroy. A wave of pure, psychic domination washed over the city. It was met by a wall. The Emperor of Mankind, standing in the ruins of the Baal Temple, felt the psionic wave. He regarded it as a hurricane regards a child's breath. He flared his own psychic aura, a vast, golden, shimmering dome of pure, unadulterated order erupted from his form, covering the entire city of Baldur's Gate in an instant. The Netherbrain's command hit the golden shield and dissolved. Every citizen in the city, who had been clutching their heads, their bones beginning to shift, their transformation beginning, suddenly felt the urge vanish. They were left, terrified and confused, but safe, protected by a golden, benevolent, and utterly tyrannical psychic sun. The Netherbrain reeled, its ultimate weapon rendered useless. So, the Emperor's voice, now a booming psychic broadcast that all in the city could hear, echoed from the heavens. You are the true source of the infection, the Absolute. You have dared to taint me. You have dared to enslave my species. The Emperor flew. He did not use a ship. He did not need wings. He was a 2-foot-tall, golden-armored god, and he simply willed himself into the air. He ascended, a golden comet of pure, righteous fury, towards the cowering, monstrous brain that floated over the city. The nether brain, in a final, desperate act, fired its full arsenal. It launched psionic beams. It tore chunks of buildings from the ground and hurled them. It tried to crush the golden god. The emperor simply flew through the storm, his golden shield vaporizing the debris, his will scattering the psionic beams. He was unstoppable. He was the anathema, and he had come for the final heretic. The emperor of mankind landed, his golden boots thudding softly on the glistening, pulsating cortex of the nether brain itself. The colossal creature, a god of psionics, writhed beneath him, a mountain of terrified flesh. It unleashed its final, desperate weapon, the crown of Karsus. It focused the full, reality-bending power of the ancient artifact on the single golden man standing on its very mind. It tried to dominate him, to make him its slave, its puppet, its shield. It was a power that had once challenged a goddess. It was the single, most fatal, and most profound miscalculation in the history of Faerun. The emperor stood in the heart of the psionic, magical, reality-warping storm, and he laughed. It was a cold, silent, psychic laugh that shattered the netherbrain's will. You, his mind boomed, a force of pure, absolute, imperial will that dwarfed the power of the crown as a sun dwarfs a candle. Dare to try and control me. He was the master of mankind. His will held back 4 chaos gods. This brain, this artifact, they were toys. He reached out, not with his hand, but with his mind. He seized the crown of Karsus. He ripped its control away from the netherbrain. The power of the crown, the power to dominate, was now his, and he turned that power, amplified by his own godlike psychic might, back on the brain itself. He did not destroy it. That would be wasteful. He enslaved it. The netherbrain, the absolute, the godlike entity that had terrorized a continent, let out a single, final, psychic whimper, and then went silent. Its will was broken. Its mind was shattered. It was now a puppet, a tool, a mindless, obedient, and unimaginably powerful psychic amplifier, yoked to a new and far, far greater master. The emperor stood on the cortex of his new, living golden throne. The Illithid army, the Nautiloids, the entire remaining force of the Absolute, stopped. They turned, as one, and knelt. He descended, his golden armor blazing, to the high hall of the city. He landed, his enslaved netherbrain and its fleet of Nautiloids hovering obediently over the city, a new, terrible, and orderly moon. His party, Tav, Gale, Will, Shadowheart, Aragorn, Gandalf, all stood there, their faces a mask of pure, stunned, and absolute terror. They had won. The Absolute was defeated. But their world was lost. The Emperor of Mankind looked at them, his new, primitive, and useful subjects. It is done. His voice boomed, a psychic proclamation to the entire waiting world. The Absolute is broken. The false gods are purged. The heresy is at an end. He pointed a single, golden, gauntleted finger at Aragorn, at Gandalf, at the trembling, confused citizens. I have saved this world, and now it is mine. A new, glorious imperium of man will be forged from this primitive dust. You will have one choice: kneel or be purged. He turned his gaze to the terrified Xenos, to the elves and dwarves who had fought at his side. Your time is over. The great crusade for Faerun begins now.